Learn about the declaration of conflicts of interest that all administrators of the Keralty Business Group must complete annually. First, let's know who they are and what the function of administrators is. Administrators are those collaborators who hold certain specific roles in which they must make decisions that compromise the company for which they work and therefore must act with impartiality and objectivity. It is understood that an administrator is facing a conflict of interest when he represents the interests of two different subjects, the company and the staff, such that the interests of one of them cannot be defended without harming or putting the interests at risk. This type of conflict puts Keralty as administrators in trouble when the interests of the company intersect with personal interests or with those of other individuals linked to the administrator, thus affecting the objectivity in the decision-making. In all countries in which Keralty or any of its subordinate companies are present, the law establishes that company administrators must act in good faith, also with the loyalty and diligence that characterizes every business person, and their actions must be complied with. In the interest of the company, also taking into account the interests of its partners or shareholders, which is why administrators must refrain from participating for themselves or for a person with personal interests or in any other type of connection with themselves, which the above applies to activities that involve competition with the company or in acts in which there is a conflict of interest, unless expressly authorized by the Board of Directors or General Assembly of Shareholders. Who are the people linked to the administrator? The spouse or people with an emotional relationship are considered a direct link, such as uncles, cousins, nephews, and brothers, as well as relatives of the administrator's spouse in any degree of consanguinity. The spouses of uncles, cousins, nephews, and siblings of the administrator or his or her spouse in any degree of consanguinity also fall into this category. Companies other than those of Keralty in which the director or any of the persons mentioned above exercises control or has the capacity to appoint the majority of the composition of its administrative bodies in which he simultaneously holds the position of director. To facilitate the identification of situations in which the administrator may be facing a conflict of interest, we have prepared a questionnaire that must be answered by all people who have the status of administrators in Keralty companies or who are designated by the Ethics Committee. To do this, the questions we must answer are the following. First, do any of the people linked to the administrator serve as administrators or employees of any of the companies belonging to Keralty? Second, in addition to your status as administrator, do you or people related to you have a professional or property commercial relationship with any of the companies belonging to Keralty? Third, do you or people related to you have a commercial, professional, labor or property relationship with companies or organizations belonging to the private or public health sector, other than the companies that are part of Keralty in the countries where Keralty has operations? Fourth, in the last 12 months, have you received, directly or through an intermediary, any payment, fees or recognition in money or in kind from any supplier or strategic partner of the Keralty Business Group? Fifth, are you or people related to you partners of any company that is a supplier, strategic ally or provider of health services or other Keralty companies, or have been within the last 12 months, or are you in the selection process or hiring? Sixth, in your capacity as administrator, are you in any situation that could generate a conflict of interest other than those mentioned above? When this process is carried out appropriately, we can facilitate the administrator's compliance with the principles of loyalty, objectivity, and transparency in the exercise of their functions. In this way, mechanisms can be adopted that make it possible to know situations that may give rise to a conflict of interest and manage them appropriately. Conflicts of interest that cannot be avoided and provide adequate information to take timely measures or prevent situations in which the conduct of directors is questioned. We invite you to remember the commitments we have as administrators of Keralty by informing in writing to the email conflictodinteresses@keralty.com if you are a collaborator, to the President of the Board of Directors if you are a member of the Board of Directors of any of the subordinate companies, or through the ethical line if it is a supplier, strategic ally, or third party in general. Any situation that modifies the statements made through this form must be reported according to the aforementioned indications, and in any case, we must refrain from participating in decision-making in situations in which a conflict of interest arises. To avoid falling into situations in which your interests, whether on your own or on behalf of others, may conflict with the interest of the company. We remind you that failure to comply with the situations explained in this video will give rise to the initiation and processing of the respective disciplinary process, such as the internal investigation as appropriate, which may end with the termination with just cause of your contractual relationship.